friends. Welcome to Wait For It with Cynthia. This is episode 13 and happy Groundhog's Day. It is February the 2nd, 2023, and today marks a special day for me, but I will share that more at the end of this video. But first, I hope you enjoy this little history. Every year, Americans in snowy states wait with bated breath to see whether Puxani Phil will spot his shadow. And every year we take Phil's weather forecast, 6 more weeks of winter or an early spring, as gospel. It's about as strange and cute as a holiday gets. So how did Groundhog's Day go from a kooky local tradition to an annual celebration even those of us who don't worry about winter can find the fun in? We explore Groundhog's Day origins from a tiny event to an American holiday we can all be proud of. Spoiler, there are badgers, immorality, and at least one groundhog on the menu. Every February 2nd, the members of the Puxani Groundhog Club trek to Gobbler's Knob, Puxani Phil's official home just outside of town. Donning top hats and tuxedos, the group waits for Phil to leave his burrow, and if he sees his shadow, the town gets 6 more weeks of winter. And if he doesn't see his shadow, Puxani gets an early spring. But the early seeds of the Groundhog Day we know today were planted thousands of years ago, according to Dan Yoder, a folklorist born and raised in the groundhog country of central Pennsylvania, who penned the definitive history of the folk holiday that turned to a national tradition. The holiday evolved over centuries as it was observed by different groups from the Celts to the Germans to the Pennsylvania Dutch and eventually by those in other parts of the U.S. Its evolution began in the pre-Christian era of Western Europe, when the Celtic world was the predominant cultural force in the region. In the Celtic year, instead of solstices, there were 4 dates, similar to the dates we use today to determine the seasons, that were the turning points of the year. One of them, per Yoder, was February the 1st. These turning point dates were so essential to Europeans at the time that they Christianized them with Western Europe when Western Europe widely adopted Christianity. While May 1st became May Day and November 1st became All Saints' Day, the February 1st holiday was pushed to the following day and would eventually become Groundhog Day. First, though, through February, the holiday was known as Candlemas, a day on which Christians brought candles to church to be blessed, a sign of source of light and warmth for winter. But like the other 3 turning points, it was still a weather point date that signified a change in the seasons, Yoder wrote. And when agriculture was the biggest, if not only, industry of the region, predicting the weather became something of a ritual viewed as essential to the health of crops and townsfolk. There was some mysticism attached to the holiday too, as seen in a poem from 1678 penned by the naturalist John Ray. If Candlemas Day be fair and bright, winter will have another fight. If on Candlemas Day it be shower or rain, winter is gone and will not come again. The animal meteorology element wasn't folded in until German speakers came to parts of Europe formerly populated by the Celtic people and brought their own beliefs to the holiday. Except instead of a groundhog, they hedged their bets on a badger. An old European encyclopedia Yoder cited points to the German badger as the Candlemas weather prophet, though it's not clear why. Sources, including the state of Pennsylvania and the Puxani Groundhog Club, say the Germans also considered hedgehogs as harbingers of the new season. When the holiday came overseas with the Pennsylvania Dutch, they traded the badger for an American groundhog, equally shy and subterranean and likely more prevalent in the area in which they settled. Many sources claim that the original Groundhog Day took place in 1887, when residents of Puxani set out to Gobbler's Knob, known as Phil's official home, but the first piece of evidence Yoder found of townspeople trusting a groundhog for the weather, a diary entry that was dated 1840. And since Pennsylvania Dutch immigrants mostly arrived in the mid to late 18th century, it's likely that the holiday existed for decades earlier than we have recorded per the Library of Congress. Part of the reason so many of us know about Groundhog's Day is due to the 1993 film of the same name. The phrase Groundhog Day even became shorthand for that deja vu feeling of reliving the same day over and over. But Puxani Phil became something of a cult celebrity even before the film debuted. He appeared on the Today Show in 1960, and according to the New York Daily Record, he visited the White House in 1986. He even charmed Oprah Winfrey, appearing on her show in 1995. Before he was a celebrity, though, he was lunch. In a terrible twist, the earliest Groundhog Day of the 19th century involved devouring poor Phil after he made his prediction. The year 1887 was the year of the groundhog picnic, Yoder said. Pennsylvania historian Christopher Davis wrote that locals cooked up groundhog as a special local dish, served at the Puxani Elk Lodge, whose members would go on to create the town's Groundhog Club. Diners were pleased at how tender the poor groundhog's meat was. Groundhog meat eventually left the menu of Puxani establishments as the townsfolk realized his worth. In the 1960s, Phil got his name, a nod to King Philip, per the Groundhog Club. The specific King Philip he was named for is unclear. But Middlefloss pointed out that there has not been a King Philip of Germany, where many Pennsylvanian settlers came from in centuries. Before that, he was simply Breer Groundhog. Puxani Phil's popularity has inspired several imitators. There's Staten Island Chuck in New York, Pierre C. Chateau of Louisiana, and Thistle the Whistle Pig of Ohio, to name a few fellow groundhog weather procrastinators, but there's only one Phil, and he's the original. Despite their early practice of noshing on Phil's family, the Puxani Groundhog Club avers that they have only had one Phil since 1886. He's been given an elixir of life every year at the summertime groundhog picnic, which magically gives him 7 more years of life, the club said. Groundhogs can live up to 6 years in the wild and up to 14 in captivity, per PBS Nature. So do with that what you will. Phil also doesn't have to spend the off-season alone. He's married to Phyllis, per the Groundhog Club, who does not receive the same elixir of life and so will not live forever like her groundhog husband. There is no official word on how many wives Phil has outlived throughout the years. As for his accuracy in weather predicting, Phil's hit or miss, he often sees his shadow 107 times. In fact, per the York Daily Record, which has analyzed every single one of Phil's official weather predictions since the 19th century, last year Phil saw his shadow, which coincided with a huge winter storm. Fingers crossed for better luck for all of us this year. So what is the result for 2023? Well, according to our own Groundhog Day predictions, we expect to see sunny skies on February 2nd, which means that Phil will see his shadow and predict 6 more weeks of winter. Well, there you have it, my friends. The history of Groundhog Day and the prediction of will we have 6 more weeks of winter or will we see spring very soon? And it looks like we're going to see 6 more weeks of winter. Today is also a very special day for me. On February 2nd, 1999, Groundhog's Day, my youngest son was born. So today we are celebrating his 24th birthday. Over on my community tab will be a birthday wish for him. I hope that you will consider going over and leaving him a message. My son had a big hand in my YouTube channel and the creation of it. He was my very first subscriber, and he was the one who encouraged me to even start a channel. So everything that the Joyful Creation family has become is all due to my younger son. So thank you again for joining me today, and happy Groundhog's Day, everyone, and happy birthday, Andrew.